It was during this vulnerable period that Tani began to prey upon Yemi's vulnerabilities, tempting her with the promises of belonging and security within the widow's cult. Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a young woman named Yemi. Yemi was a kind and caring woman who had recently married a handsome young man named Ajani. One sunny day, while Yemi was out shopping at the local market, she bumped into her old friend from school, Tani. Tani was a young widow who had lost her husband in a tragic accident. Despite the sadness in her heart, Tani greeted Yemi with a warm smile, and they quickly caught up on old times. As days turned into weeks, Yemi and Tani became inseparable friends. They would spend hours talking and laughing together, sharing stories of their past and dreams for the future. Yemi cherished her newfound friendship with Tani, grateful for the companionship in her new town. Their friendship blossomed, and one can't help but ask if they were sisters. Tani also flaunted her wealth for Yemi to see and convinced that she is living well. Meanwhile, Yemi and Ajani faced challenges in their marriage. Despite their deep love for each other, they struggled to conceive a child. Each month brought disappointment and heartache, straining their relationships and causing frequent arguments. In times of trouble, Yemi would confide in Tani, seeking solace and advice. Tani never for once failed to dish out encouragement advice to her friend Yemi. As the months passed, tensions between Yemi and Ajani reached a breaking point. Frustrated and desperate, Yemi turned to Tani for comfort. That night, armed men visited Yemi and Ajani and in the process shot Ajani to death. Heartbroken and bruised, Yemi found herself at a crossroads. Despite her pain, she couldn't bear the thought of losing her husband very early in life. The news of Ajani's death spread like wildfire through the town, sending shockwaves of fear and anger rippling through the community. As the days passed, Yemi struggled to come to terms with her newfound status as a widow. Without a child to carry on Ajani's legacy, she felt adrift, lost in a sea of uncertainty and grief. It was during this vulnerable period that Tani began to prey upon Yemi's vulnerabilities, tempting her with the promises of belonging and security within the widow's cult. Despite her initial reluctance, Yemi found herself drawn to the idea of finding solace among other women who understood her pain. But as Yemi contemplated her future within the cult, she couldn't shake the feeling of unease that gnawed at her soul. Deep down, she knew that embracing Tani's twisted version of sisterhood would only lead her further down a dark and dangerous path. And so, as Yemi stood on the brink of a life-altering decision, torn between loyalty to her friend and the voice of reason in her heart, she realized that her journey was far from over. The choices she made in the days to come would shape not only her own destiny, but the fate of all those around her. Later on, Ajani's family came for his properties. Yemi would be left empty-handed since she had no child for Ajani. At this juncture, Yemi went back to Tani, seeking her help. Tani fought for her legally, and the property was given to her, leaving Ajani's family with nothing. In order to show appreciation, Tani used the opportunity to convince her to join the widow's cult, and she would become so powerful and wealthy that no one would be able to challenge her. With no other options, she agreed and went with her to meet with the other cult members. Yemi was welcomed and later initiated into the widow's cult. She was given a book. According to the cult's queen, the book can be used to command anything to happen. Just wish for anything and it would happen. In just a month after the initiation, Yemi became so wealthy. She had businesses everywhere in the town. She bought a very big mansion and had a fleet of cars. Yemi decided to visit her parents in the village and change their lives. She also shared food and money to the widows and the less privileged in the village, and she became the first person to do such a thing in the village. Yemi returned to the town and couldn't find the book given to her by the cult. She remembered being warned not to lose the book. She sensed disaster and ran to Tani for help. Tani was equally surprised to hear the news of the book's disappearance, and she advised they should visit the cult queen to seek her help. At the cult's chamber, the cult queen revealed that the book had returned to the chamber because it was time for Yemi to perform another sacrifice. Her next sacrifice was her mother. On hearing that, Yemi became more surprised as she couldn't remember making any sacrifice initially. She looked at Tani with a queried eyes. The queen then revealed that her first sacrifice was her husband. The queen commanded Tani to make her understand what had happened to her husband. Tani then revealed how she was envious of Yemi's marriage and the fact that she herself would never be married again, wanted Yemi to be a widow like her and also to belong to the widow's cult. She used a mystical power to make Yemi not to have children so that Ajani would misbehave and Yemi would hate him and eventually plan to kill him. But when she found out that the bond between Yemi and Ajani was strong, she seized the opportunity they quarreled to plan Ajani's assassination. Shaken to the core by the revelation of her husband's death, Yemi's world crumbled around her. The weight of guilt and betrayal threatened to consume her as she grappled with the horrifying truth of what she had become entangled in. Fleeing from the widow's cult chamber, Yemi's mind raced with a jumble of emotions. Anger, sorrow, and disbelief surged within her, mingling with a newfound determination to break free from Tani's sinister grasp once and for all. As she emerged into the cool night air, Yemi felt a sense of clarity wash over her. She knew that she could no longer be a pawn in Tani's twisted game of power and control. With a steely resolve, she vowed to put an end to the madness that had consumed her life. Returning to her lavish estate, Yemi abandoned every possession gotten from the widow's cult, casting aside the tainted wealth and possessions that had come at such a high cost. She ran to her village and found solace in the simple joys of her childhood home, surrounded by the love and support of her family. Was she really free from the wrath of the cult? What do you think would be the cult's next move? Watch out for the part 2. This is Umma's story time. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I am Amarachi Ihoma, the young storyteller.